Welcome to the Eagles Open Practice Live Q&A presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL. We're out here at the Pepsi Plaza, Lincoln Financial Field. We're all excited. 6:30 public practice. I'm here with Barrett Brooks and John Clark filling in for our buddy Reuben Frank. Guys, it's exciting to be out here.
Wait. Before we even get to that, Reuben Frank. Hey, man, get well, bro. Get well.
Yeah, because I gotta go on vacation tomorrow. So, Rube, come back.
Well, we appreciate you being here, John.
Thanks for having me.
We have a lot of questions. They're already piling in online. We're streaming this, so everyone out on the internet, we say hello to you, and we say hi to everyone here at the Pepsi Plaza. We'll be answering questions from everyone. But before we get to the questions, guys, we were kind of chatting before this even began. We're already getting excited for the season.
Yes, and I got a different viewpoint for you guys because right now, speaking to both of you guys, there's a lot of unknowns in this Eagles season. But with me, I liken this to the year before I went to the Super Bowl. I had that same vibe last year, but this year I got that Super Bowl vibe. I am really, really hype on what the Eagles could possibly do this year, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
How about you, John? What are you thinking about this season right now? We're a little over a month from the start of it.
Well, I got to tell you, I got pretty excited when I saw people lined up outside the link for an hour to get into an open practice. They just opened it up at 4:30, and people were running up the steps in this 100-degree real feel heat. So that's got me fired up. The season is getting close, and I think this team is so hungry because of what happened last year. They were on top of the world at 10-1, and they had a big collapse, and I think they want to fix that this year, and I think they've done a lot of things to fix that.
John, it's so funny you talk about all the people here. I was talking to rookie Jalen the other day, and I mentioned to him that, there's going to be 50,000 people out there, and the look on his face just dropped. He couldn't believe it. That's a lot for a rookie who's coming from Houston Christian, all of a sudden be out here in front of 50,000 people. But we saw everyone sprinting up there. It's first come, first serve seating. The rest of the people are out here with us, and we can't wait to answer some questions. We'll be getting some soon. Do we have a question already? I think we do. Ashley, out there.
Does anyone have a question for these guys? We got Barrett Brooks, Dave Zangaro, John Clark. Anybody have an Eagles question? Come on over. Step right up. Anybody?
While we wait for that,
it's
funny. I see one of the comments in here. Enough of the collapse talk from last year. I think the Eagles are feeling that a little bit. We heard Jordan Mailata last week kind of say, guys, I'm kind of done answering questions from last year. And I understand it's probably frustrating for them. But, hey, listen, a season goes the way it did, it's going to be a topic of conversation until we see real football again.
You are what your record depicts you are. I know last year, right now they're 0, they're 0-0, but you are with the last version of what we saw. What the last version we saw was not good football. So you got to show me better. I'm from Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from the show me states. You got to show me that things are been fixed and that you're ready to go out there and give us a great product. We didn't have that great product last year. We got our butts kicked for 8 games. 8 games, we didn't play good football. So that's what I see in my head. Until you show me something different, that's what I have to go by.
Well, I do think that they have fixed some of those things. I think there was a lot of dissension amongst coaches and players. There was a disconnect. But what they've done this year is you have one voice on offense, and that's Kellen Moore. You have one voice on defense, and that's Vic Fangio. You heard Jalen Hurts even mention we weren't on the same page last year. Too many voices on both sides of the ball. So I think they fixed that. And then you have the conditioning aspect, and Dave wrote about it and asked Nick Sirianni about it. The conditioning aspect, they can't run out of gas physically at the end of the year. And you especially see that with Jordan Davis and guys like that. The conditioning is key this year, and they're working on that from the get-go.
Guys, we have some questions rolling in online. I want to get to the first one here from Heem the Dream. Who do you think is the X factor for both sides of the football? Don't give me the star players, guys. Give me someone a little under the radar who you think could make a really big impact.
You got to go by, where it all starts, and that's the center position. And it starts with him. So I believe Cam Jurgens has to be the guy. Cam Jurgens will be the guy. What I see from him, he has all the intangibles that, you saw from Kelce, but he just lacks the experience that Kelce has. Changing protections, things of that nature. It has to be done by him now. So he was the main reason why, Jalen Hurts had the progression he has as a player, as a pro. There were times when they come up to the ball and we have 4 down in the mic. That's protected. Scat protection, you got 4 down in the mic. So we're going to block the 4 defensive linemen and that Mike linebacker. But all of a sudden, the safety comes up. Jason's been saying, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to call that safety the Mike now. And we're going to pick up the guys that we're going to block. Because if you don't, that means a big defensive lineman will be going against a running back. You switch the responsibilities. Jalen would do that. Switch the responsibilities. Now the running back will have the safety that came up, and then we would block the big down lineman. Then those are the little things that Jason was able to do. Will Cam have that ability? He will as time progresses after he sees a lot of these blitzes and everything. But until he does that, it's going to be up to Jalen and him to do it. So to start with Jalen, and on the other side of the ball, starts with Davis. If he can control the middle of that defense, everything else will be great.
How about you, Johnny? Any players on your mind, kind of X-factor type players?
Well, I mean, I think Jalen Carter is going to destroy the league this year. They're going to have to double team him every play. But as far as X-factor, I'm going to go C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah,
Wow, yeah.
And I've been talking to some people, and C.J. has really stepped up his leadership. They say he is really leading, and you see him at practice. We watch. He is vibing the whole time. In between every play, he is dancing,
energized, really,
creating the vibe, and the guys feed off that, and he brings toughness to the secondary, brings a swag. So I'm going to go C.J. Gardner-Johnson because I think the Eagles and C.J. both realize that they should have kept this together, that they should have had him back last year, and they're correcting a wrong. But I think he's going to show a lot on defense and lead the defense.
He's got a pretty good jump shot too. I don't know if you guys saw that
video.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah,
got the team out of a meeting. Good job.
You know what? I had an opportunity one time. If I caught a punt, then the whole team wouldn't have to run. If I didn't catch the punt, then the whole team would have to run gassers.
It's a lot of pressure.
Come on, that's too much pressure. Coward said, look, you want to talk about it? Let me see what you're going to do. I caught it. Thank you for catching it. Woo!
Let's go work.
The team were like, yes. But it could have been went real bad if I didn't.
All right, we have Ashley out now with a question. Ashley, what do you got for us?
All right, guys. Our first fan question is a great one. It's from Za from South Philly. What you got, Za?
How many wins do y'all see us having this season?
How many wins, guys? What do you think?
Wow, it's early, but I'm going 12. I'm that confident. I'm that bullish on this team having the ability to go out there and control, their division number 1, but just win because they are just a good team.
Yeah, I think the over-under right now, 10.5 wins for the Eagles. John, you falling on the over there?
I might go 11 or 12. Look, I think there's a chance they could lose to the Packers to start the season because the defense is going to be learning Vic Fangio's scheme. We're not going to see them full speed being able to hit as a defense until the season opener. I do think, though, after watching Hard Knocks and the Giants and some of these other teams out there, that the Eagles are going to be right there with the Niners for the best record in the NFC. And I think the Cowboys will probably win, the same amount of games they do every year, 12, but they won't do anything in the playoffs. But I think the Eagles, 11 or 12, are right there.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Ashley, I hear you have another question for us.
You guys, now they're flowing in. We have Jeff from Collegeville. Next one up.
Yeah, I wanted to know if the Eagles will play their senior players at defensive back, or are they going to rotate in their rookie players?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a new-looking defensive backfield for the Eagles. How do you think this is going to shake out, guys?
Well, I heard Vic Fangio say the best players will play. And if you look at it, I mean, I'm telling you the truth. Quinyon Martin has showed the ability to go out there and play in the slot and perform well in there. And I know it's between him and Avonte Maddox, but, I mean, he is definitely, biting at the tooth, and he's ready to go in there. So I like that, So, I mean, the best players will play. And if he's one of the best players, I think he'll have an opportunity. Other than that, I see Keely Ringo, young guy, is fighting for the other, cornerback opposite of Big Play Slay. He's, fighting right now with Rodgers. So, I mean, it's Rodgers. So it's great competitiveness between the two guys in the two positions. So I like both of those young guys to be able to play this year.
John, what do you think? It's kind of a totally revamped secondary. They needed to do it, and they certainly did.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Barrett's right. I do think Isaiah Rodgers may get the first crack starting at the second cornerback spot.
Right.
Because he's been in the league. He's got some veteran experience, and the guys rave about him and the way he has looked at camp. But I don't think that is going to be the starting lineup midway through the season. I think Quinyon Mitchell in some way will get into that starting lineup, whether it's an injury, and Avonte Maddox does have trouble staying healthy, so maybe he could play in the slot, or, he could take over for Isaiah Rodgers. And Keely Ringo is a big possibility as well. But I think Isaiah Rodgers is going to get the first crack at it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Quinyon Mitchell can also play that dime linebacker spot. They're going to figure out a way to get him on the field. But first, we're gonna actually, in just a second, we have 4 things to know about this team heading into tonight's open practice. Number 1, the right guard position is really open right now, guys. Mekhi Becton is in there for Tyler Steen. He looks pretty good. He's obviously a huge body. That's something to watch going forward. Number 2, this offense is really new. A lot of pre-snap motion. We're seeing some different things from Kellen Moore that we didn't see from Nick Sirianni a couple years ago. You guys just mentioned the cornerbacks. That's number 3 on my list. That battle is really heating up. It's a battle between good players, and that's the difference from some years past where you're saying it's a battle. I don't know who's going to win it this year. Whoever wins it, you're feeling pretty good about. And number 4, you mentioned him earlier, guys, Jalen Carter. He's turning eyes on. I mean, he's doing everything that he possibly can. He looks absolutely incredible. So looking forward to watching him tonight at this practice. Ashley, another question from you.
Yep, we got another one, guys. We have Will from Philly. What you got, Will?
Why are the Eagles not ranked the number 1 team in the NFL? We have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, offensive line, defensive line. Why are we not ranked number 1? We are the best team in the NFL, 2025 Super Bowl champions. Let's see.
You hear it out there. There's a lot of excitement about this team, no question, right?
Let's go.
Yeah, this is the time for that. You look at that roster, it's pretty good. But, guys, that roster last year wasn't bad either, and we saw how it went. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think they're being a little overlooked? John, I'll start with you here.
Well, it's interesting because Jalen Hurts had an MVP-type year 2 years ago. He didn't have an MVP-type year last year. So which Jalen Hurts are we going to see this year? Who is the real Jalen Hurts? I do think adding Saquon Barkley, my goodness. I mean, when we were out of practice, you could see even when he is in motion or they change his position, basically, and split him out wide, you see the defense. The linebackers are like, oh, my God, I got to go over here. So he is going to be a huge problem. I do think maybe they're a little overlooked because of the way it finished last year. And you had leaders like Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, and they still had the collapse. So there are questions about, will this team rebound from that? And then when the tough times come, do they have new leadership to step up? But I kind of like it. I never like when you're a dream team and you're getting all the preseason picks to be the best team in the NFL. So I think this is a good spot for them. They're in prove-it mode.
Well said. Prove it. You got to show me, what I'm saying, before you tell me. I feel as though this team has everything, all the intangibles to be a great team. But it's up to them to go out there and show us. You have to be able to show us. You have to be consistent. Last year, the last 8 games, it had to be a learning experience. We've been, talking about this for the past 6-7 months. But if they learn from it, then we'll be all right. But they have to make sure that they go in and fix those problems. They did it from a talent standpoint. Can they fix it from a mental standpoint? When things get tough, will they, fall like they did last year? And that's what I'm going to say. The intestinal fortitude they're going to need to go out and play this year. If times get tough, I want to see where they go and what direction they go in.
Sounds good, guys. We have a question here online from Carl Stevenson. What are we seeing so far from Josh Sweat and Milton Williams? 2 guys we probably haven't talked about a ton. There's a lot of new additions to the defensive line, but those 2 guys are going to play quite a bit.
You're talking about 2 guys that they're put in a position where they're the elder statesmen right now, number 1. But number 2, their consistency. And that's what we don't talk about a lot. Everybody talks about rush to the passer. Everybody's talking about stopping the run. But can you do both of those consistently? And I have seen that from those 2 guys. I mean, Milton Williams, stopping a run, 2-gapping, getting in the hole, getting up the field, pass rushing. I see all those things in there. Same thing y'all see with Sweat. He has the ability to do the same thing, pass rush. It's not really showing as far as him getting to the quarterback just yet, but that's because he's going through his reads and going to the quarterback. I see, guys going out there and running, and like Nolan Smith. He can rush the passer. He is flying up the field, but you can take yourself out of a play. You don't see that from Sweat. He reads things more appropriately, so he'll slow it down a little bit, giving him an opportunity to stop the run or stop the boot. Nolan needs to learn that and slow things down a little bit. So I see consistent guys that are doing the right things at the right times. And both of those have showed that maturity in their play.
You know what they have in common, John? Contract years for both of those guys. They can make a lot of money this year.
And Josh Sweat kind of was in a situation like Darius Slay was a year before, where he felt I could get out there and make more money somewhere else. Hassan Reddick. also believe the same thing. And Josh Sweat, it was give or go for a little bit there. You're wondering if he was going to stay with the Eagles, and he is back. And this is kind of like I need to show the league again, because he was a little inconsistent last year. He dropped off like a lot of the rest of the team. But I want to see consistency from Josh Sweat. They have numbers, but Vic Fangio, it seems like he wants to play his main guys a little bit more than they have in years past.
They're going to get opportunity. That's for sure. And now we have an opportunity for someone to ask us a question. Ashley, I hear you have another one for us.
Yeah, guys, we do have another question. And he is touching on a very hot topic, play calling.
If the offense goes as well as we think it will, what are the chances that they elevate Kellen Moore in some way to keep consistent play calling from year to year?
Yeah, see, here's the trouble,
That's a
guys.
tough question there.
Because if things are going well, it means that coach is doing a good job too. So where are you on this? Because it is a tricky situation they're in, because you expect Kellen Moore to come in, and if he does what he can do, he might not be here for very long.
See, that's the problem right now. Success makes everybody want to come cherry pick, your tree. And that's what's going on. We had two good coordinators the year we went to the Super Bowl. And what happens? They both get cherry picked, and both of them become head coaches somewhere else. Same thing could happen with Moore. If he has a great offense and things calls a great year in the offensive side of the ball, then he'll be picked. God is all right. We want you to be a head coach. How do you stop that? You got to make him the head coach. How they have that success though? Because the head coach put him in position, make sure he's successful by running the entire team. So his success may breed him leaving and going somewhere else. But I'll deal with that when we come to it. All right.
It'd be a good problem to have.
Right.
John, how do you look at that? Is there any scenario where you could see that unfolding? It seems really unrealistic to me that they have a great year and they think, well, we can't lose Kellen Moore. Sorry, Nick. It doesn't seem realistic.
Right.
Yeah, and look, they would not have kept Nick Sirianni if they didn't feel he is a very good head coach, and for the most part has led this team to the playoffs, a Super Bowl appearance. And look, Nick, you got to give him credit for one thing. When he realizes something is not the best for the team, he takes his ego out of it. He did that handing over play calling to Shane Steichen. Then he's done it again now, because this is Kellen Moore's offense. This is completely his offense. Now, I do think there's a crazy scenario if they go to the NFC title game and it's the offense leading the way and Kellen Moore is just fantastic and he gets all these job offers. Do the Eagles try to in some way keep Kellen Moore? What happens with Nick Sirianni? You can't really let go of Nick Sirianni if he leads them to the playoffs again.
4 years in a row.
To start his NFL coaching career. So it's going to be a crazy, wild situation if something like that happens. But give Nick credit for realizing, and maybe he was suggested, we got to hand over the offense to Kellen Moore. He even said it was stale. So you said it's a good problem if this happens.
Well,
if at the end of the year you say, hey, they're an NFC title or Super Bowl team because Kellen Moore was a fantastic play caller, let's figure it out then and enjoy the year.
Just like I said, we'll make that decision as we get closer to it. But that's the nature of what a head coach is, a good head coach is. I know this is a new wave thing within the last 10 years, 12 years, where offensive coordinators becoming head coaches and they calling their own offenses. That's not how it was when I first got in the league. Head coaches were head coaches, and they would push their message to their coordinators and then to the players. I mean, I guess it's a long-lost art now, but I think that situation is still something that could win in the NFL.
All right, Ashley, I hear you have another question for us. What do we have?
We do, and we have a very special one. So it's all about defense. Kyle from Lock Haven, what do we have?
I just want to ask, which one of the young defensive backs do you think is going to step up and take a starting spot this year?
All right, you hear that, guys, and it is there are plenty of young players to choose from, whether it's Quinyon Mitchell or Cooper DeJean, the two rookies. They also have guys like Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks still on the team. Of all that group, I'll start with you, John. Who do you think has the best chance to win a starting gig?
I'm going with Quinyon Mitchell because the things you hear and the things you see, we were standing right there with the excellent pass defense on A.J. Brown where Jalen Hurts didn't even throw the ball to A.J. Brown. He will always throw the ball to A.J. Brown, right?
Absolutely.
And yet Quinyon Mitchell locked down A.J. Brown. And A.J. today was speaking, and it's great because he says, I am almost picking a fight with the rookie to see, and you asked the question, Dave, to see how he stands up to that. And he is unfazed. He says Quinyon Mitchell is unfazed. So I see this kid coming into the league. He's not afraid of anything. He's got all the physical tools. And you're seeing the mental part of it at camp. Because camp is not easy for a rookie.
Not at all. Yep.
So I would say Quinyon Mitchell. Keely Ringo I like, but Quinyon Mitchell, he seems to have it all.
He does. Barrett, what do you think about Cooper DeJean, a guy we haven't talked about he's been injured, missing 3 weeks of training camp. How big is that? And is that something that's really going to hold him back?
Huge. It's huge because you learn a lot of the basic stuff. You learn a lot of the meat and potatoes of what it is to be a pro in training camp. This is where you build, calluses on your body, getting you ready for the season, going into the season. He's a young guy, a lot to learn, and he's going to be in a position where he's going to have to learn a lot of different positions in order for him to be productive on this team. He's got to learn a slot, safety, third safety, and nickel packages and dime packages because he's going to be like a Swiss Army knife on this defense. He got the size to be a safety, but still has the speed to be a cornerback. When you don't have these reps, the reps that we're talking about, like me and John sat there and watched. You were there too. When we watched right in front of us, where A.J. Brown and Quinyon Mitchell were battling in the red zone. I mean, those are things that, you get that you learn from. And there's no better, learning experience than experience. So, yes, he's not getting those situations. So it's tough. It's tough to be able to watch it. But you really want to get those situations and learn from them. And your body learns from it because it becomes second nature then. That's what makes Quinyon Mitchell so good. He has great discipline in his technique, and that's what's allowed him to play the way he's playing.
All right, Ashley, let's go back out to you for another question.
Yeah, guys, we have a very special guest. She told me her name is Shirley Sullivan. Not sure about that one, but go ahead, Shirley, take it away.
I am a huge Eagles fan. I'm also a huge fan of Barrett Brooks. And the other day I was watching Bird's Huddle, and Barrett told me that if Saquon Barkley leads the league in rushing,
winning the Super Bowl,
will win the Super Bowl.
Woo!
I think that's a little bit of a hot take. What do you guys think?
No, not a hot take at all. No, none. It's not a hot take. In fact, I will double. Now I'm tripling down on it. If Saquon Barkley leads the NFL in rushing, that means we are a balanced offense, and we're taking games over. We're winning the Super Bowl. You can't stop. That's the most demoralizing thing you can do to a defense is stop the run. And if you can't do it, they run on you. That means you can't double team on the outsides. You got to allocate resources to stop the run. That makes this offense unstoppable. That means offense wins championships these days. I'm going to say it 4 times. Saquon Barkley leads the NFL in rushing. That means our team is leading the NFL in rushing. That means this team is winning a Super Bowl, period.
I don't know, John. Shirley looks familiar to me. I couldn't quite place her, but
well, she must have been behind me because I turned around. I didn't see Shirley. I think I saw Ashlyn Sullivan, maybe.
Okay.
But how many times has the leading rusher in the NFL, in this new age NFL, how often have they won the Super Bowl? That's what we need. Now, Rube is not here today. So, Reuben, if you're at home watching, quickly look that up because I don't know if that correlates anymore.
Text me.
But I agree that if the Eagles have leads in games, Saquon Barkley is going to rack up a lot of yards because in the third and fourth quarter, nobody's going to want to tackle him. If the Eagles have a 10, 14-point lead, and the Giants never had leads. So Saquon Barkley was never in that position before. But Saquon Barkley, I think, adds so much to this team, so much so. Would you say they have the most talent on offense of any team, or are you going Niners? Who are you going?
You have to say the Eagles.
Offensively, the weapons
on offense,
Eagles in the NFL, the best.
The best. I mean, I'm trying to think of a team that has more from an offensive standpoint.
I mean, the 49ers are close, right?
Yeah, they're very close,
you
but not
Debo and Ayuk and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey.
And Eagles have, what we have.
I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is kind of a +1 in that skill position department, whereas like Brock Purdy's been really good, but he's not bringing the same athleticism.
Also, offensive line-wise, we blow them away as far as offensive line. They have 1 great player. Mm-hmm. We have 4 really, really good players.
All right, I have an online question.
And we got to thank Ashley. Miss Sullivan. This last question. Thank you, Miss Sullivan.
I'm glad someone agrees with you. Jason R. online. You guys think this will be Jalen Carter's first All-Pro year? It's a valid question. I mean, This is a guy who looked like an All-Pro the first half of last year. He fell off, but so did everyone else. I don't know how much stock he put into that. I can tell you guys that every single day at practice, he looks like an All-Pro.
Looking the part. I mean, he's out there. He's conditioned himself to go hard every single play. He's running after the ball. I mean, I saw him the other day take on 2 double-team blocks. He posted up the post guy and stuck his butt in the hole and sat there, and they could not move him. I mean, that's strength, that, it's hard for at least older guys to do, let alone a young guy like that to do. He's clogging up the hole. And we're not even going to talk about pass rushing. You can't stop him. So he truly has an opportunity to be great this season.
And you see a couple times when they kind of put him on the outside a little bit.
Right.
Woo! that is going to be a problem because the offensive line is saying, okay, we probably got to double team this guy. But then that is going to leave somebody else with a one-on-one matchup to really destroy it. And if Jordan Davis can do that, get a bigger push as a pressure guy, then this defensive front will be one of the best. But Jalen Carter, I agree. I think this is his year.
Well, I do too. I mean, and I don't think it's crazy to even start talking maybe about defensive player of the year odds. I think he's that talented. I think he just has to put it all together.
Right. You mean you're talking about a guy who's so big, strong, got it all together, but yet everybody says his production went down last year. You know why his production went down last year? Watch the film. They stopped double teaming and triple teaming Fletcher and started paying attention to him. The offensive coordinators got smart also. They started turning the protection to Jalen, and he was getting the double teams and the triple teams instead of Fletcher Cox. So, I mean, he's demanding that you account for him, on the field.
All right, let's go back out to Ashley with another question.
Hey guys, Kyle from Levittown has a question about someone near and dear to all of our hearts. Go for it, Kyle.
Yeah, guys. Hey, how you doing? I'm wondering how you think we're going to replace Kelce this year. It is such a huge loss. What do you think is going to happen with that?
Yeah, it's obviously they're losing a Hall of Famer, a guy who was still playing at a high level. He wasn't just like an all-pro by recognition. He was playing that well last year. They're going to lose his play on the field and his leadership. John, I'll start with you. How in the heck do they replace that guy?
Well, I'll let Barrett break down the offensive line and the physical things that he has to do. But the thing that I loved to see at camp was with Jason Kelce no longer here, you have to kind of have that other guy step up in the leadership role. And Jordan Mailata, with all those false starts at training camp practice, basically had his offensive linemen go out there and run gassers and do extra work after practice. And he said it's holding them to the standard, making them accountable. And I think most guys are going to listen to Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
With how big he is.
6'8".
Yeah, and he's a really, really nice human being. But you also see that other side of him where he can have a little bit of a mean streak. And then his protection of Jalen Hurts. We saw the sack up at Giant Stadium when he protected his quarterback and how much that means to him. But I think you see the leadership of other guys coming into play here. Jordan Mailata, as far as physically, I think it's more the mental part
Yes,
of
you're right.
setting up the protections and where's the pressure coming from. But Jalen Hurts seems to be taking over more of that now that Jason Kelce is retired.
Absolutely.
How about purely physically? Does he have the tools to be that type of center?
I know you guys are going to, look at me and think that I'm just a bad guy, but he has more than what Kelce has. He's stronger than Kelce. He's faster than Kelce. Not saying, he's going to be as great as Kelce, but he has all the intangibles to do that. And you talk to Kelce, he'll tell you the same thing. He was handpicked by Kelce because he watched film on him and saw the things he did. He pulled around just like Kelce did, especially when he was younger. He has those type of things. He can get up on the second level blocks, but separates him. He's stronger at the point of attack when it comes to double teams. I watched, a couple of days ago when they had pads on, and him and Becton drove this defensive line. I'm not going to say who the defensive lineman was, but drove this defensive lineman out of the end zone.
It wasn't Jalen Carter.
No, it wasn't Jalen Carter. No. But he drove him out of the end zone, out of the end zone. I mean, he's just a stronger player at the point of attack. So, yeah, he has everything that Jason has. Everything.
I appreciate you not outing that player. He's got a family.
Right.
They don't need to hear about all that.
And by the way, he said Mekhi Becton. I think he's going to be the right guard.
Yeah, I think
he's going to be the right guard.
I think that's very possible. All right, Ashley, I hear you have another question for us.
We do have another question. So Isaiah and Jessica from Glassboro, New Jersey have a great question. And I got to say, Isaiah may be the cutest fan to ever exist. You want to say hi real quick? Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Who do you think will be the key player to allow the Eagles to have success this season?
Key player, guys. So we talked about the X factors already. Maybe the guys kind of under the radar. Let's go a little bigger picture here and talk about the stars. Who's the biggest key to this season?
The biggest key. When we talk about him on the defensive side of the ball, we talked about him already. CJGJ. His enthusiasm, the way he goes to the game. Oh, go Eagles. There you go. His enthusiasm, the way he goes out there and influences not just, physically being out on the field, but emotionally understanding he has to be that spark plug for this team. So on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to say CJGJ. On the offensive side of the ball, that's tough because there's so many stars to go to. I think it's going to have to go with our guy, probably the best player on our offense last year, and that's AJ. AJ Brown has to be the guy. He's that spark plug. I watched him, as far as, being a leader on the team. What they do now is when the offense goes out on the field, defense on the field, after they get through with that series, those guys sprint to the end zone. Well, they sprinted to the end zone. He turned around and saw a couple offensive linemen kind of tiptoeing a little bit and walking a little bit. And he still, hey, guys, we got to get off this field. Let's run. And they listen to him. And these are two linemen that, are very respected on the team. They listen to him. So I think he has to be that emotional guy for the offensive side of the ball, CJ GJ on the defensive side of the ball.
How about you, John? Is it as simple as Jalen Hurts on
Yeah.
offense?
Now, I would always
say we can't go Jalen Hurts.
I would always go when Lane Johnson plays, they win.
Yeah, that's
When
true.
Lane Johnson doesn't play, they lose. He is the biggest force on the offensive line, but it's got to be the quarterback. He's got to cut down on the turnovers, and he needs to be that playmaker. He probably wasn't healthy last year. If you're talking about the +1 in the running game, well, he probably wasn't completely healthy last year. So with this dynamic offense, it is all Jalen Hurts because all of the weapons are there. You said it. They may have the best weapons around Jalen in the NFL. Great offensive line. So to me, Jalen Hurts, and it's obvious, to me, he is the most important player.
Well, he said we couldn't say Jalen Hurts. How come
No, I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
You're making up the rules as you go.
That was the time before.
Yeah.
You're right. That was the question before.
You're an outside the box thinker.
Yeah. I do like that. All right, we're going to go back online here. Pablo Salas has a question. Should we be more worried about the offensive line? Now, this is a unit that's losing a Hall of Fame player, and it has kind of trickle-down effect, right? You have Cam Jurgens going from right guard to center, that right guard spot a little up in the air. How much drop-off do we expect to see this season?
That's tough. It all depends on how I think Moore calls the offense. Everybody's talking about physically, these guys, are they as good, with Kelce not being there? I'm not really worried about, Cam and who the right guard's going to be. I'm more so worried about how we're going to call this offense because you could protect the offensive line more. We had too many situations where it was too many drop back passes for Jalen. That's not really his strong suit. How about we run a little more play action? That way you can get those linebackers come off the ball like you're running the ball, and you can use play action as a solid protection, meaning you can have more blockers in and just send those two receivers down the field. That's great, because you have more blocking. Send those two receivers down the field. It brings up the linebackers, and you help the offensive line by doing that. Or run a lot of boot protection. Get the offensive line going one way and have Jalen get out on the edge, but turn around, booting around, and pushing the ball down the field. Then you can help the offensive line by moving the launch point, or where that quarterback's going to be. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to help this offense. His play calling and putting his guys in better positions rather than sit back and drop back passing all the time. And now these guys have to protect for 5-6 seconds as opposed to giving a little bit of, off coming off the ball and helping them push the ball down the field.
And then Jeff Stoutland, we trust, guys? I mean,
Stoutland University.
Yep.
They trust that guy. Next question here from IBH. Will Nakobe Dean be given a shot at a starting position? So far, I'll break down what's kind of happened in training camp. Every day, it's really been Devin White and Zach Bond starting the practice, but then Nakobe Dean mixes in, and they're mixing and matching quite a bit. We'll see Nakobe Dean with Zach Bond. We'll see Devin White with Nakobe, and every different combination they have. But we haven't seen a day where Nakobe Dean just comes out as the number one or number two guy. Will we ever see that?
Well, I mean, one thing you have to look at it, Vic Fangio, he didn't draft. So you have to, look into that,
and in free agency this year,
yes,
they decided to go get Zach Bond. And I'm guaranteeing you that Howie Roseman was knocking on Vic's door. Give me a couple guys that you would like to see. So, I mean,
I signed Devin White too. So
every time they that's all he talks about. That's all Vic Fangio talks about.
First,
yes.
Out of the linebackers, Zach Bond was mentioned first. So I think he's going to be the guy.
Does he have an opportunity? The war of attrition is tough in the NFL. I hate saying this, but players get hurt, and he has to be ready to step up. Just like the young guys have to be ready to step up. Trot Jr. has to be ready to step up. So you never know. But hey, at this point, I don't see anything. I don't see anything that's bad in Zach Brown's game to really put him behind, the other linebackers. He's starting and he's playing at a high level. So I got to say, he's a starter right now.
Yeah, that's probably fair. We have a long way to go, guys. We're still over a month. From
Yeah,
the
but I
start of the
love
season.
when we get ready to go to camp. You've already got your first installment of the 53-man roster.
Right,
I love that.
You got to start somewhere, John.
I love it.
We want to thank everyone online for all the questions. Everyone out here at the Pepsi Plaza, we appreciate all of you. Thank you, Ashley, for getting us those questions.
Wow.
Thanks to John
flew
and
by.
Barrett. It did fly by. We had a lot of fun here. We want to thank everyone for watching the Eagles Open Practice Live Q&A presented by Toyota, proud partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.